Hey guys, welcome back to another video on PS4 Linux. In one of my previous videos, I showed you how you could install PS4 Linux distros using Rufus or Balena Etcher. This required the distros to be packed in a particular format, that is img.xz, and in this video we're going to discuss how we could repack the existing PS4 Linux distros, or for that matter new distros, in the img.xz format so that you could install these distros using Rufus or Balena Etcher. One major advantage of this method that uses Rufus or Balena Etcher is that you could use any distro, whether it be Linux, Mac or Windows, to install PS4 Linux distros directly onto the USB drive, therefore bypassing the need of a PS4 or a Linux machine for the installation. So let's get straight to it, okay? We're going to begin with the requirements. For repacking the distros into the desired format, that is img.xz, we do need a Linux system. This can be either a full-fledged Linux system or a virtual machine. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do that with a virtual machine because that is much more convenient and it saves both space and some time, okay? And then we're going to require the ISO of a distro. In this tutorial, I'm going to be using Fedora. That is the live version. You will have to look for the live version. The link to download all of these will be given in the description. Do check that out anyways, okay? So in this tutorial, I'm going to be using Fedora 40, the live version. If you're planning to use any other distro like Ubuntu or even Arch, make sure that you get the live CD version, okay? Once you have that, the third requirement is a virtualization software itself. In this tutorial, we're going to be using VirtualBox, okay? I have already installed it right here. And then the usual essential items that you need for running PS4 Linux. That is the PS4 Linux distro itself. In this tutorial, I'm going to be using Pop OS. I've just renamed the file to ps4linux.tar.exe for ease. And apart from that, you're obviously going to require a kernel and init RAM depending on your model of PS4. All of these have been discussed in detail in the PS4 Linux AIO documentation, which has also been linked in the description. Do check that out. And apart from that, you will obviously require a USB keyboard and mouse and all the other usual stuff that you require, okay? And that takes me directly to the process of building img.xz distros for PS4 Linux, okay? The first step would be the preparation of the virtual machine. So for that, I'm going to quickly open VirtualBox, okay? I've already installed it. You can download it right here. The link again will be in the description. Depending on your OS, you will have to download any one of these, okay? And apart from that, we'll also require the VirtualBox extension pack, which can be downloaded right here. This is not distro specific or OS specific. And after you have installed VirtualBox, you can install the extension pack by just double clicking on it and clicking on agree and OK. That's it. It's a very simple process. Now that covers the first step, that is installing and setting up VirtualBox. Now we go on to the setup of the virtual machine itself. For that, I'm going to click on new. Okay. I'm going to name this PS4 Linux. You could name this anything. It doesn't matter. Okay. And as for the type, I'm going to choose Linux. It is correctly chosen here. And then I'm going to go and choose Fedora, that is 64-bit, because that's what we're going to be using here, as you can see right here, okay? And then I'm going to click on next. And here I'm going to set up the amount of RAM that I require. Since archiving is a resource heavy process, I'm going to allot at least 8000 MB of RAM to this. You could allot more than that or even less than that, depending on the amount of RAM that your system has, okay? I'm going to allot 8000 MB of RAM, and that's what I suggest, 8000 or higher, okay? And then click on next, make sure that this is ticked, okay? And then click create, and then VDI is fine, okay? And then click on next, switch to fixed size, okay? And then click on next, and make sure that you have allotted at least 25 to 30 GB of space for this virtual machine, okay? I'm gonna allot 30 GB because we have to make sure that there is enough space for the extraction of the distro and the other processes. So 30 GB is fine, okay? And then click on create. This might take some time. So our virtual machine is ready. There are a few more things to set up before we actually start the virtual machine. So I'm going to go to the settings and then I'm going to choose the storage. Okay. So here it would say empty under the IDE. I'm going to click on it and then go here and click on it and then choose a disk file. Okay. From here, you can browse to the location of the ISO that you downloaded. In my case, it is the Fedora Live 40. Okay. So I'm going to click on it and then click on open. So make sure that it is selected right here, and then we're going to go to the USB section and make sure that this is ticked, that is enable USB controller. And then I'm also going to make sure that USB 3.0 is selected. If your USB is a USB 2.0, this would work fine as well. But if you have a USB 3.0 drive, then make sure that this is selected for better speeds. Okay. And finally, I'm going to go to the system and then processor. And I'm going to increase the number of processes allotted to this virtual machine. I'm going to go till 8 for this, okay? Depending on the number of cores or threads that your PC or your laptop has, you can change this value. This would make sure that the packaging process is faster, okay? So depending on your system specs, just try to increase this to the maximum possible, okay? And then click on OK. And that's it. That completes the second step, that is setting up the virtual machine, okay? Now we're going to move to the third step, that is setting up the virtual machine from inside Fedora. and then also unpacking the distro. Before we actually start the virtual machine, I'm going to quickly grab this file, that is the distro file, and then I'm going to copy it to my pen drive. Okay, that is this USB drive that I have already connected here. Okay. Now while that copies, I'm going to quickly start the virtual machine right here. Okay. Once you've shown this menu, just make sure that you're using your arrow keys to move to the Start Fedora LXDE Live 40. And I'm going to press on enter to start the live version of Fedora. Okay. As you can see, Fedora Live is already here. Now we'll have to wait for this move to complete. So now that the move is complete, now we can pair the USB drive successfully to the virtual machine. So to do that, I'm going to right click on this USB icon and choose my USB drive, which is this one. So I'm going to click on it. And this would pop up right here telling me that it has been successfully connected, and this is the file that we copied right now. Okay, now let me quickly switch to the full screen mode on this virtual machine. To do that, I'm going to press on the right control and the F key together, and that would switch me to the full screen mode. Okay, now we're ready to install a simple piece of software that would help us in setting up the rest of the things. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to open the terminal by clicking on this icon and then type sudo space dnf space install space gparted space -y and then press enter. And this will install a simple piece of software called Gparted, which would help us in setting up the drives for the installation process. Okay. Yep, the installation is complete. To start this Gparted application, all you have to do is type sudo space gparted and then press enter. And this would start the GUI. Now from here, you will have to select your drive. Okay, so the 30 GB is the drive that I had added to the virtual machine in the earlier step, and 28.65 GB pertains to my USB drive. Make sure that you are using the proper drive here. Just for confirmation, click on the particular device that you want and make sure that it says unallocated here. This would confirm that you have properly selected the drive. Also, make a note of this device identifier. Okay, we'll need that in the last step of the process. Okay, so my device identifier here is /dev/sda. Okay, make a mental note of it. And now we are ready to set up this drive for installation or unpacking the distro. Okay, to do that, I'm going to go into device and click create partition table and make sure that MS-DOS is selected and click on apply. Okay, and once that is done, make sure that this unallocated space is selected. Then go to this and click on it. First of all, change the file system to FAT32 and then allot space. I'm going to allot 50 MB to this partition because this will only hold our kernel, init RAM and payload.bin in the case of the recent PPWin exploit. Okay, you can try to change this value to 100 or whatever you feel like. Okay, make sure that this is a FAT32 partition and there's no label. Okay, and then click on add. Now make sure that unallocated is selected again and then click on this. And then what you have to do is make sure that the file system is ext4. You do not have to change this value. Okay, now make sure that the label is psztarch or whatever your init RAM requires. The actual value will depend on the init RAM fs. Okay, so the most commonly used init RAM is one from the psztar team, which has a label of psztarch. That's what we would require here. Okay, and then click on add. Okay, once you're satisfied with these, all you have to do is click on tick to make sure that these settings are applied to the virtual hard drive. So that operation is complete. Okay, now we are ready to extract the distro. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my USB drive, and then these are the two new partitions that we just created using Gparted. Okay, make sure that you have mounted this psztarch partition. All you have to do is click on it. Okay, it would be mounted as you can see right here. From the address bar, I'm going to copy this location. We're going to need this. Okay, now go back to the USB drive and then go to tools above here and then click on open current folder in terminal. Okay, this would open the current location in the terminal. Okay, now we are ready to run the command to extract the distro. The actual command is sudo space tar space hyphen small x small v capital J small p small f. Okay, space the name of the file. The name of the file in our case is PS4 Linux.tar.xz. Okay, and then a space and then hyphen capital C and then a space and then the location where we want it to be extracted. This is what we copied in the last step. Okay, from the address bar. That is a psztarch partition. All you have to do is paste it right here. Okay, and then a space again and then hyphen numeric hyphen owner. Okay, and then press enter. This would start the extraction process. It might take some time. We're gonna wait for it to complete. Okay, so as you can see, the extraction process is complete, and with that we have concluded the step 3 of the process, and that prepares us for the final step, that is the packing of the PS4 Linux distro for use with Rufus or Etcher. Okay, I'm going to close this. Okay, And as you can see, the partition psd has been properly populated with all the files of the distro. Okay, now let's quickly go back to the USB drive. Okay, and then I'm going to open a terminal again right here. Let me quickly maximize it. And then I'm going to type sudo space fdisk space -l. And then after a space, I'm going to enter the device identifier that we had made a note of in the Gparted step. Okay, so in my case, it was /dev/sda, and then I'm going to press enter. Now look for this one, that is /dev/sda2, and under end sector, you would find this value 629145559. Depending on your setup, this might change. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly copy this value. Okay, so here is a value that we have copied right here. And then I'm going to quickly add 1 to this value, which would give me 60 at the end. So this is the value that we required, 629145560. Okay, let me remove this value to avoid confusion. This is the value that we require. I'm going to copy this value because we're going to require that in the final step, that is repacking the distro. Okay, now we're ready to run the final command. And the final command is sudo space dd space if is equal to /dev/sda. Again, if your identifier is different that we had made a note of in the earlier step when we set up everything in Gparted, make sure that that is applied here instead of /sda. Okay, and then press space bs is equal to 512 space conv is equal to sparse comma sync comma no error. Okay, and then a space again, count is equal to, this is where we're going to supply the value that we had made a note of earlier. Okay, so in my case, the value is 629145560. That is the end sector plus 1. Okay, make sure that you're supplying it properly here. Okay, and then give a space again, and then status is equal to progress, and then a space, a divider, and then a space again, xz space -9 small e, and then we're going to give a larger than symbol after a space, and then a space again, and this is where we're going to provide the name for the archive. Okay, in my case, I have chosen PS4 Linux.img.xz. Okay, this .img.xz has to be there. Okay, the value that prefixes it, that is PS4 Linux in my case, can be changed to anything else according to your whims or desires. Okay, once everything is set up, all you have to do is press enter to start the archiving process. Now this might take some time depending on your RAM, your processor, and even the USB drive that you're using for this process. Okay, once the process is complete, you will find your new archive right here. As you can see, it right now says only 24.1 MB. This would increase in value, okay, over time, and once that is complete, we'll come back. Okay, so right now the terminal tells us that the process is complete. Let us quickly check our USB drive, which would have this file. I'm going to click on it to see its size, and it says 3.3 GB. So yeah, that makes sense. So this is the file that you're going to use to install this particular PS4 Linux distro, in this case Pop OS, onto a USB drive using Rufus or Balena Etcher. The actual process of installation using this file on Rufus or Balena Etcher on Windows or any other OS for that matter has already been discussed in detail in another video, which will be linked in the description. You can go check that out. I would just like to add a note. If Balena Etcher does not work for you, if it throws any error during this writing process, I would recommend that you use Rufus instead. I've been using Rufus without any issues, and I've already tried this distro on the PS4 and it works very well. So make sure that if you face any issues, you switch to Rufus instead of Balena Etcher. On that note, I'm going to see you in another great video. Keep supporting the channel. Do follow me on social media. And if you can donate, the donation link is in the description. You can go check that out. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye guys.